City Council meeting for June 6th, and I ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Here.
Mr. Hamer,
Here.
Mr. Lowry,
Here.
Mr. Rupel,
Here.
Mr. Schulz, Mr. Smolik,
Here.
Mr. Ziegler.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, reading and approval of the minutes of the May 10th, 2022 special council meeting. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Smolik, second by Mr. Fenstermaker. Are there any comments? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Rupel,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
I have one comment, and I just wanted to clarify this. Louis, I think you said there was 4,900 individuals that work in Kirtland but reside elsewhere. Was that number correct?
I don't have that right in front of me. That sounds pretty accurate, though. It was in the upper 4,000s, yes. If you give me a moment, I can probably pull that. 1 second.
On the, yeah. Oh, okay.
So live and work in Kirtland was 934. Live in Kirtland and work elsewhere is 4,593. Is that the number you're looking for?
And then it said, individuals that in Kirtland and work elsewhere are approximately 4,900 individuals.
I believe that is the correct number. Yeah, I can pull it up if, you know.
It's 4,947. That's what you
Okay.
said.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yes.
That actually sounds perfect.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Did we get through everybody there? I'm sorry. Okay, thanks. What was that? September? Okay, thank you. 2022 work session.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Lowry, second by Mr. Schultz. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Rupel,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Thank you. Next up, minutes of the May 16th, 2022 council meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Smolik, second by Mr. Lowry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Rupel,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Going to department reports, we'll start with you, Chief Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things to report. Formal report was sent out. We had a very busy month with EMS calls. As you can see, 59 transports, which is quite a bit for us. We are still struggling with part-time staffing. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. Again, global issue throughout Northeast Ohio. We did add 4 firefighters, but those 4 firefighters all work at different departments as well, multiple departments. So we're still all picking from the same pool of applicants. You know, we've been able to limit time by myself and Dominic, our executive assistant who's also part-time firefighter paramedic. So we've been able to fill quite a few gaps so far. But as we move forward into the summer, it looks like we're definitely going to have full-time overtime. That's definitely going to start to occur probably starting this weekend. So we'll see those costs come up. We do have funds budgeted for full-time overtime. I've talked about options. Really, the only option we have at this point is to look at full-time staffing to help cover those positions. I did write one safer grant, which is through FEMA, that will be funded for a 3-year period, and the other is an ARPA grant. There's that funds or rescue positions for 2 years, and it would also provide retention bonuses that I could spread out over the 2-year period and try to retain some of our people. We did one of our part-time firefighters, Frisco Fiorito, was called up for active duty early, and he's going to be gone for 13 months. So we wish him well. Summer events started yesterday. We had the half marathon. Went very well, no issues at all. Strawberry Fest, Winter Strawberry coming up. Winter Strawberry will be in July. Also, I'm going to talk about our violence, mass casualty drills at Lakeland College, with everything that's going on in the world right now. It's going to be a good idea to get everyone together. We do have 3 of our medics, the instructors, the EMS side, Purple Police Department will be very active on the police side, and all Lake County Police Department will take place in that training. One last funding. We've had the regional AFG grant that we had for radios. There was quite a bit of funds left over. We were able to split between the 7 departments and put them in that up to under $18,444. Then we're going to put together term. And we had to write an amendment for that grant. We haven't heard back. So usually they funds. Turn up here's a bonus for us because it'd be something we want to take out. Other than that, I'm looking for other questions.
Any questions for Chief?
Did you say you still needed a couple more radios you were short to at all? I thought I saw an older radio on one of the guys at the Memorial Day. How many more do you guys need on the hand radios?
As far as our radios, we're fully equipped with all the radios. All of our full-time people receive new radios. All of our seating positions on our vehicles, we were able to pass down some of our older radios to some of our part-time staff. One of the things we had in our budget was updating our base station radios at both stations. And we found a way we can even do that to reduce the price by about half. So we'll be doing that coming up within the next month or so.
Chief, relative to the 2 grants you mentioned earlier for personnel, when would you receive word whether Kirtland was successful?
The SAFER grant through the federal government, they were supposed to be out a few months back, but they're usually delayed. So hopefully mid-summer by the end of July, and the ARPA grant they're talking about end of July also. So both grants that we wrote, they're the exact same grant, hoping that one of them will be funded.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Not quite yet. We have not reached it yet. But Mr. Slapnicker, I'm sure he's looking very close. Mr. Fernaro and I are watching closely. We're doing everything we can to try to reduce, idling vehicles and, just moving around between stations. I know the police department are also doing, some stops where they shut the vehicles down as well.
Just for purpose of the record, can you just give us your name and address? But thank you very much. All right, thank you, Chief. Mr. Fernaro?
Thank you. I have no formal report today, but I have a lot of thank yous, so please bear with me. It was a busy 2 weeks, so I want to start off with thanking our team. All the work they did these last 2 weeks, getting the baskets up, our banners, the flags, Safety Town, keeping up with grass. I mean, our crew really did a great job, as always. On the Public Works open house, it was well attended. I'd like to thank everybody that came, council that showed up, police and fire for their support, the senior center showing up, helping us, Chief Hutton for doing the grilling. If I'm forgetting somebody, I'm sorry, but the Kiwanis was a huge help in helping us. There was 15 of them. Our truck rodeo winner was Mr. Frank Lyons. He actually beat our drivers, which was kind of hard to take, but we'll get him next year, I hope. And then I'd like to move on to our cleanup and our tree planting. Again, the Kiwanis, the Garden Club, the Legion, the Boy Scouts. There's so many people to thank. I've said this since I've been here. It's a unique city. The amount of support is unbelievable. I think I had one more. Yes, the Boy Scouts. What a great job. I can't tell you how proud I am of the work they do to make our cemeteries look so great. And so nobody's forgotten. I mean, I really appreciate their help. And that completes my report.
Mr. Fernaro, it's 6:30 in the morning. I was driving down 306 on Sunday, and I saw our service truck watering flowers. A certain individual was you. Was that correct?
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for doing that. I was really shocked, not only to see a service truck on a Sunday morning facing me coming down the road, but to see you doing that. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do that.
You're welcome. You brought up a great point, too. Sorry, let me jump back in. So our water truck is out there. Councilman Schultz brought it up a couple meetings ago with Public Works Week. We had a guy real close to us in Summit County, District 4, get hit by a guy that swerved off the road. He was just moving a deer off the roadway. In really bad shape right now, broken back. So please be careful during construction season. Our water truck will go against traffic. It's safer for the guy watering the flowers. Our roadside mowers out there, again, dangerous. Please, patience. Like I said in the wintertime, just have patience, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I was talking with Joe a little earlier. I don't know if you guys saw the email. They did finish up, which street was it? Mills, right? They finished up Mills. That was the final from last year's project, right?
Correct. Mitchell
Okay.
Mills, yep.
And Frank Lyon asked what he won. I go, he gets to work on any truck he wants to at his cost, and he has to buy parts. So he didn't think it was a good deal.
Joe, I'd like to thank you for helping that resident with that brush pickup. They were very, very appreciative of it. And I think it goes a long way to your professionalism and just being on the spot. And I couldn't tell you how impressed they were, but I wanted to publicly acknowledge your work effort there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'll start off tonight with the street rehabilitation project. Plans and specifications are complete. First advertisement was today. The bid opening is scheduled for Tuesday, the 21st of June at 11 a.m. And we expect we'll have recommendations for an award to council for the July 6th meeting. Old Town sewer improvements, not much change there. The deed restrictions are progressing. They're gathering title attorney's gathering signatures on all those, and as soon as all the signatures are gathered, he'll be able to file all those. That'll help us finalize the assessment list. We have an agreement on one easement out of two. I don't have any signed easements yet, though. However, I have calls out to folks today to get status on that stuff. Previous timeline for the project might get pushed a little bit with respect to the public hearing, depending on when we can secure the easements and when the deed restrictions can get filed. However, pushing the public hearing at this point isn't affecting a spring 23 start. So we're still good for spring 23 start as we sit tonight. Parks Farm subdivision. Construction slowed down a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but they're going to be starting again with storm sewer installations this week on Wednesday or Thursday. That should last a couple of weeks, and then they'll start on water mains as soon as they can get their water main materials. And Joe and I had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor for the Joseph Smith home and store. That was on May 17th. Work's progressing on that project. I'm sure everyone's noticed. And that concludes my report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Mr. Courtney, last meeting, we had a lot of folks here from Locust. Did you get a chance to get out there to take one final look at it and assess their concerns?
I did. I actually went out there a couple times. My honest opinion, it's not as bad as it was represented in that meeting. It's actually a very good chip seal job, in my opinion.
Mr. Courtney, I went there that night, and I second what you say. I mean, it was proposed that we were going to really walk down a road that was in really, really poor shape. And yeah, it's chip and seal, but I was not at the same level that we heard from the residents.
I'll third that. I drove after the meeting and I agree. I thought it was going to look like a desert road, but it certainly didn't look anywhere near the way it was presented to us. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay.
I concur also. I was a little reluctant to say anything that evening because I had been down there only about 5 weeks earlier. I'm like, well, maybe something happened I didn't notice, and it was fine. I even drove the little convertible, and that thing feels just about everything, and I thought it was, pretty good shape. Obviously loose gravel, which is, to be had with that kind of surface, but I'd agree with the other three council people.
Yeah, and it actually, I thought it has smoothed out a little since last year even. There was some concern raised about some alligator cracking coming through the chip seal. It's you can see the reflection of it through the chip seal, but everything is sealed up tight. There's no water getting through that pavement at this point. I'm not as alarmed as the residents with respect to the condition of the pavement. I think it's going to hold up just fine.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The only thing on that, you noticed that we are going to put some asphalt on there, and you said a half-inch thick?
At the last meeting, that was the intent. Joe and I have had some additional discussions about that application of a microsurface on that particular roadway. And Joe and I had just enough apprehension that it was going to do what we wanted it to do, that when I wrote the specs for the street repairs, I went back to asphalt. So the Locust area is in its own separate section in the contract that's advertised today.
Okay, thank you.
So just to follow up, so it will receive a thicker layer of asphalt?
Yeah, we have a quote for microsurface. It was higher than we anticipated because it's a smaller quantity, and most of the guys who do microsurface come up from Columbus. So we put it in the contract with 2.5 inch asphalt, over top of what's there, with some repairs in areas that are obviously soft. So we'll see how those numbers come in, and we can make a decision from that point.
So it's kind of like a alternate bid type of item, right? It's gonna
Well,
be
I wouldn't
contingent
call
on-
it, I wouldn't call it an alternate bid, but I put it in its own section. And as council, you reserve the right in the contract to award or reject sections of the contract separately. So if you get good numbers on one section and bad numbers on another, you can award the good numbers and get rid of the bad ones, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
So we have room to play.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Slapnicker?
Thank you, Council President Rupel. The 2021 basic financial statements have been filed with the auditor's office, so we expect to see the auditors back on site, perform some tests on that reporting. The final 2021 RETA administrative cost numbers have come in. They actually was 1.68%. Their fee is 1.868% of the total costs of collections for income tax. So we actually will receive back, or we have received back, a refund on our retainer amount of $10,134. So RETA is doing a great job. We estimate around 3% of costs, but again, they came in at 1.68% for 2021. On the agenda this evening, first reading for the tax budget. I did provide council a memo just to highlight a couple of quick things. Just reading directly from the memo. The purpose of a tax budget, it provides the information necessary for the county auditor to set a property tax rate for next year. In 2023, the millage request will be 3 mills inside, which is without a vote of the people, and 8.05 mills outside, which would be voted. Failure to pass the tax budget results in 0 real property revenue for 2023. Local government revenue is also based on the completion of the tax budget. And finally, it allows the county auditor to provide Kirtland with a certificate of estimated resources, which limits the amount of money council can appropriate for the year 2023, avoiding any negative fund balances. So we will have a public hearing on the next council meeting. Again, this does not need to be passed tonight, but maybe after a second reading. But if it goes 3 readings, then we'll still meet the deadline with the county. And then that was going to conclude my report, but the gentleman that asked about fuel, I looked up some updated numbers in both police and fire. We're around 28% utilized of the 2023 budget. Service department's around 58% budget. But again, keep in mind that we did amend recently for fuel based on that. It's looking to be okay as of we're almost halfway through the year. But again, with fuel prices continuing rising, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. So with that, that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you. I guess over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President Rupel. Real quick, I think Mr. Finaro hit on all of the thank yous for all the different organizations and individuals that help prepare the city in these grounds specifically for the Memorial Day event. And with that, I'd like to thank all of those groups and individuals, but special thanks to retired Sergeant Major Ken Wyben for coming out and sharing his story on Memorial Day, in our usual effort to do our best to pay respect to the fallen. So thanks to Mr. Wyben for that. Senator Jerry Serino was going to be here tonight to assist in an announcement of some award that the city of Kirtland is due to receive. So a few months back, as part of the state capital budget requesting process, I had worked to file a grant through the senator's office for community center, about $120,000 for the community center to have outdoor restrooms there. And so with the help of the senator getting it into that budget just last week, the budget passed and the governor signed it. So the city of Kirtland will be receiving $120,000 to install outdoor restrooms up at the community center and senior center. So thanks to the senator. And I'd asked him, since he wasn't going to be able to be here, if he would just provide us with a quote. So the senator says, "I'm certainly pleased that I was able to secure capital dollars for my hometown Kirtland. The community center and senior center is important to our community, and these improvements will benefit all of our citizens. So thanks again to the senator and for including us in that process. And just so everyone knows, with the capital budget, what I found interesting is this was the second time I think that I had an opportunity to, because last year I think it was on a freeze. So when I first took office, I think that was the grant request was for outdoor bathrooms, and then COVID hit, obviously. So this year, this round of it, we went for those outdoor restrooms, and some might say, well, it's a capital budget. Why aren't we requesting money for sewers or roads and those kinds of things? Because, capital sticks out in their mind. But these are, that capital, state capital fund is really designed for community projects, different, different efforts, whether it's, the start of a senior kind of an initiative or a new, opportunity for a new programs and or things like the outdoor restrooms, pavilions, those kinds of things, amphitheaters. So I was surprised, like I said, that the capital didn't mean something else, but hey, we took advantage of it and applied for what we applied for, and then thanks to the senator's help, we got it in there. So we'll all be talking about how that's going to play out for next year. So thanks on that. With respect to, there was an incident yesterday or last evening over in Willowick. I don't know if everyone had a chance to see it. There was some unrest at a local festival. So when I reached out to our Chief McAllister, who's still not here tonight with us, he's still recouping, but he'll be back at the next meeting. But I did reach out to him just to ask the question, first if he had heard of it, and he sure had, and he had already reached out to some other members from our department and other agencies in preparation for our upcoming Strawberry Festival, just to make sure that we're staffed plenty. He'd reached out to those other agencies. There will be probably more of a presence than we're even used to. In this day and age, and when things like that happen, we don't expect anything. I think hopefully that's an anomaly in our area, but we just want to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that festival goes off and everybody stays safe. So if anyone talks to anybody from Kiwanis here in the next few days, and I'll mention something, I'm going to meet with one of them tomorrow just to let them know that we're taking extra steps on our end. So speaking of the festivals, or of the Strawberry Festival, I have asked the 5 other Western Lake County mayors, Mayor Fiala, Mayor Sakics of Wickliffe, Mayor Morley of Eastlake, Mayor Gardner of Willoughby Hills, and Mayor Regovich of Willowick to join me in the Strawberry Festival Strawberry Shortcake Eating Contest on Thursday, June 16th at 5:30. So if you're inclined, please come out, and if you want to cheer me on, cheer one of those other fellows on. But it should be a lot of fun, and I thank them in advance for their willingness to put themselves out there and support the effort. On the 13th, on the 13th next week at a zoning meeting, Eddie Ecker will be there to start having the conversation with zoning related to the comprehensive plan. Last month's zoning meeting, I shared some documents with the zoning, folks on the zoning commission, and so we're going to start working toward what next steps are to work through what the comprehensive plan ultimately becomes later on this year. And then Eddie Ecker will also be here at council to talk about some of the things that he and I, and he specifically, have been working on here since the last time we met with him. So on to the legislation tonight. We have 22-0-33. That's obviously our potential charter amendment to the income tax. We have 22-0-34, which is the fireworks. We talked a little bit about the fireworks legislation in the work session, but basically the state of Ohio last year had opened up opportunities for local communities to have on 13 different occasions, 13 days throughout any given year, to allow for fireworks to be discharged. And so a lot of communities around us throughout the state, what the state legislature did as part of that bill is they also gave local communities the ability to say, no, we'd rather not have that as an option here in the community. So other communities around us, many of them, if not all of them, have taken the state legislature's wiggle room, we'll call it, on that for communities, and they've prohibited it for those 13 days. That's what this legislation asks this council to do. We don't need to do anything with it tonight. It's first reading, but after talking to the fire chief, talking to our police chief, with what we respond to already year in and year out during fireworks season, it would be my preference that we would put that prohibition as allowed to the state legislature's actions last year, that we would put that prohibition and codify it here in the city of Kirtland. So, and then Lewis talked about the tax budget, so you guys all know about that. And back to the income tax potential proposal here. I think when you guys get to the reading, if you want to have a little bit of dialogue similar to what we had in the work session, or we can do it now. But we talked about how it was set last week is in preparation for the legislation. I think at 0.35, and it's good that I think that we started there because as we talk this through, lessening it, diminishing it, if need be, we have that opportunity. So through amendment at the second reading, I should say. Other than that, I think I'm hopefully done and open for any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Any
Since
questions?
you're doing the strawberry contest, does that mean you're not going to do a dunk tank this year? Just asking.
So a good friend of mine who incessantly sends me texts and is coordinating all of this, these opportunities, we'll call them, over the Strawberry Festival. He's got a pretty busy schedule for me. And so as soon as the Strawberry Shortcake contest is over, I'll be getting into the dunk tank. So full
Thanks for that
start.
update. Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Mayor, when do you think Eddie Eckert will come in to give council an update?
On the 20th, I just mentioned, yeah.
Well, that's regarding the comprehensive plan. I'm speaking of just more of a,
No. So on the 13th at the zoning meeting, he'll be here to talk to zoning about the comprehensive plan. But on the 20th, he will be here to give a general update to council on things he's been working on.
if he's gotten a chance to reach out to the developer, the senior.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. And we just spoke about that the other day. Talk about that one every few weeks.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, standing committee reports. I do not believe we have any.
Yeah, I did reach out to Lewis and he said he was available. I'm trying to think of what we have to have a topic. What,
Yeah, and just so I know too, in case you're requesting any, reporting or, just to kind of drive the dialogue.
Okay. Well, just a general update as to the health of our finances, seeing that we're 5 months through.
So Denise has that information. Good. 6 o'clock before the next council meeting, there's going to be a finance committee meeting. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I didn't receive any new correspondence, so we're up to public comments on matters not on the agenda. And this is an opportunity for any of you out here. I just asked that, I think Teresa's going to hand you a microphone to identify yourself and your address again.
Sterling Sterling Coleman, 7636 Markel Road, Kirtland. In light of current events, both local and throughout the United States lately, I sincerely regret coming here with my concern, but it is really phrased as a question for you and all the departments. I've written it down to keep it concise. I'd like to approach you with a question of concern based on the following. On Mother's Day, May 8th, and again on Thursday the 26th, a number of persons, up to 4 individuals, were target shooting on private property along the east branch of the Chagrin River behind my house, which is on Markel Road. From Lake County plot plans, I believe the property used to be one on Elm Street and registered to a Douglas Collin. The first time, the shooting lasted almost 4 hours. The second time, about an hour. The shooting took place less than 100 feet from my property. When this shooting is going on, I have to wear ear protection outside my house because I'm less than 100 feet from where they are discharging weapons. Using my back deck is out of the question. Having guests over is not an option. I did make a call to 911 and Kirtland Police indulged me and came down and talked to me and explained that under Ohio law, the target shooting was entirely legal. My question then is whether any of you have received complaints about what happened, especially since Kirtland residents are most upset about the skeet shooting range up at the country club. and that's a good ways away. And of course, we have little to say about that. This occurred within Kirtland city limits. If no one really has any issues, my concern is that this could become commonplace and you will be hearing from other people. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman, thank you. And without our law director here, or the police chief, I'll attempt to, I guess, speak to the concern. So yes, you're 100% correct. A couple years ago, the state legislature did pass House Bill 228, I think it was. And inside of that, as I think the police officer probably explained, and maybe you've done your own research since, it did open up the law that made it difficult for the city of Kirtland to enforce any of our existing ordinances related to discharge of firearms. And with that, specifically lists sport shooting as one of those kind of caveats or broadens the opportunity for that kind of activity, and then prohibits us from, if it is done in that kind of safe and legal manner, as it is now legal. To your question about, other activity around town as a result of that, it was, when Law Director Lala was first appointed, it was one of the first things that I had just recently taken office and just heard about that. A resident had actually brought it forward to me.
Okay.
And so
You
it is.
haven't heard them.
Sure, absolutely. And so
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've audited your last meeting, and it was all about the roads. So I heard nothing mentioned about it, so.
yeah, so your concern is our concern, frankly. So we just have to rely on the individuals that, potentially do take up that type of activity, that they are doing it safely to make it legal. But it's, I'm sure it is.
Really loud.
I'm sure it is. And so I think with some of that, you're down in that valley, I know where you live. I think you can probably sympathize now with the people in the upper side of the valley at the end of Elm Street and Joseph that endure that throughout kind of activity throughout the winter time coming from the country club skeet shooting,
Well, I was concerned that people may have assumed it was a country club. And I want to make sure that people, you people understood that any complaints you got, that was not from the country club, okay? And it's on your property here, so you do have a say in it if something needs to be done.
I think we would all prefer that any type of sport shooting would take place in, areas originally designated or designed to handle that kind of activity. But again, our hands are a bit tied as a result of that legislative action.
Madison is contemplating some open ranges, and they're required, and they have a 55-acre limit or something like that on acreage required to have an open range, in their case. But I understand because of that bluff along there, it under the law, it allows for shooting.
Yeah, and
But-
I don't know exactly, I can't speak to Madison, but
Yeah,
They may
once
want-
our law director isn't here, and
they may want to take a
He
look at
isn't here. I needed to say something, so
No, thank you.
I'm on the record.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments, public comments on matters not on the agenda? All right, can you please come up and state your name and address for us, please?
My name is Ed Sonny. I live on Shadowbrook Drive. And I've got some observations and comments about Hobart Road. Going to this gun shooting, I thought it was against the law to discharge a firearm in the city.
It
was?
It was for many, many years. The new Ohio legislation supersedes the city's laws at this point, but it was since the city was chartered, I believe, correct?
Correct.
I mean, I've got a piece of property that would be ideal for target shooting, but I can't because you weren't allowed to shoot.
I would.
Anyway.
I'm going to take the fifth on that.
Let's go.
Sterling, I don't believe you'll be moving next door
Hobart
on
Road.
anytime.
I'm concerned with some observations and some comments. Hobart Road, particularly from Chardon Road north, let's say Shadowbrook, maybe Raccoon, on the east side of the road has been a disaster to drive on for years. There's almost no shoulder there. There's sunken areas wherever there was a water tie-in to go under the street. And this isn't anything new. It's been there for years. I brought it to people's attention, but nothing happens. And it doesn't look like a major project to me. What's the pavement wide? 8 foot, 10 foot a lane? Somebody went down with a saw, cut the lane in half, tore out that one piece, put some fill in. This almost looks like a do-it-yourself job. My other observation is that the state of Ohio is going to rebuild the bridge over the Chagrin River on Route 6. They are going to close Route 6 for 1 year. And more than likely, a lot of traffic is going to be out of it.
I'm coming down your street right now with it closed down, so.
Right. Well, if you were to look on a Google map, say you were at Willoughby Hills City Hall and you wanted to go to Fire Park, they route you up Eagle Road and down Hobart to 6. I was amazed Sunday morning. I made the turn from Eagle Road onto Hobart going south. There were like 10 cars at the traffic at 10 o'clock in the morning. There's never anybody there. So we have that going on right now because of the paving deal. And I don't know if there's anybody on the staff that can try to find some money from the state maybe to help with paving Hobart, since they're going to force the traffic to use it. Maybe you can get some money.
Mr. Zanya, maybe Mr. Courtney and Mr. Fernaro could talk a little bit. Yeah, there have been a couple drainage issues over there that need to be resolved. I believe Aqua just had a pipe that just kind of, have they fixed that one yet, Mr. Fernaro? Okay, that's Raccoon Hill, was it? Some drainage on, so.
Department had the guys out there this spring, they did some patching in front of a few mailboxes. That did nothing for the real problem that's there. And it's not a new problem. It's been there for years. My other comment is these landscapers with their trailers stop right in the right of way. Totally block it. Unload their stuff while they're cutting somebody's grass. And on Hobart, Eagle Road, that's a hazard. My speed, I don't care. I get 40 cars down in a day. Eagle Road and Hobart, that's a different story. Do we have any permit requirements for these landscapers?
Mr. Lallo's not in, but I believe Mr. Fernaro might be able to speak to that. I don't think there is anything for,
There's not, but we brought this up a couple years ago for snow plowing and landscapers to be registered and get a permit, but we just didn't move forward with it yet. I agree with you.
A roofer probably has to get a permit to work here. I don't see why these guys can't get it. And it's just stipulated in there that.
You're correct, sir. I agree with you 100%. All traffic laws should be followed.
And can we somewhere make it known that you don't park on Eagle Road and you don't park on Hobart? You about some tickets?
We're looking into it. I brought it up. We just didn't get there yet.
It just seems to be getting worse. It seems to be getting vulnerable, just like they're saying with the snowplow guys. They used to just leave crap in the road.
I think the worst is the Amazon guys. Those guys park anyway.
Well, yeah. Most of them. But those are my comments. You sell a Hobart before somebody gets that. You can drive down that street, almost have to go left center to miss all the broken pavement. I'll dump that on you, and do I talk to see what's over with Joe?
you want to stick around after the meeting, Mr. Fernaro and Mr. Courtney can talk with you a little bit also, please.
But I sure would like to see something done with Hobart. Do Hobart before you do my street. My street's 30 years old.
You might be the only one on Shadowbrook that's
That's a better question. Do you guys have Hobart on your schedule?
so.
Is it on the schedule for this year by any chance? But
Hobart's 2023.
23?
That would be dependent on road funding, obviously. If it gets delayed a year, it gets, funding gets back a year, but right now it's 2023.
Well, I'm giving you a little heads up on what's coming up. Once they close Chardon Road, it's gonna get much worse. And I don't think you're gonna wanna try to pave it while people are pushing the traffic down the road.
So, thank you for bringing those concerns forward. Mr. Fenaro's up and down our roads every single day. Maybe not Hobart every day, but probably most days, as well as Mr. Courtney. So, no doubt that's one of those roads that needs some attention, needs some assistance, and like the councilman just mentioned, it's up for 2023. It's part of our paving plan. Should we get the commitment from the residents this fall to support that long-term paving funding strategy. So thank you.
If
State to give you some money since you're gonna ship.
if they redo, if they detour that bridge, is Hobart a no truck street? So can they send traffic?
Can't send
Mr. Hamer, all state routes are detoured to state routes.
They won't run down Hobart per se, but a majority will use Hobart as a cut through. But I don't know that they'll run a detour down Hobart. Route 6, as Matt mentioned, is a state route. They're going to route you to state roads first.
Because right now the detour is going down Laurel to Rogers and having Rogers dump out onto behind the park and then up to River Road and then River up to Route 6.
But pretty much the way it works right now, if somebody's got a heavy load of gravel that's going into Wade Hill, it goes down Hobart Road. It doesn't come down here.
All right, thank you very much for sharing your concerns. We appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on to old business, we have none. New business, public comments on agenda items of new business. Now, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on the three proposed legislations we have on the agenda. Not seeing anyone moving. So ordinance number 22-0-33, an ordinance providing for the submission to the electorate of the city of Kirtland, Ohio, a proposal to amend the charter of said city by amending Article 6, Taxation, Section 1, Prohibition of Excessive Income Tax, and declaring an emergency. The mayor pointed out a little bit earlier that the proposed legislation is for a 0.35 tax increase. If we're going to amend that, we should likely do that by the next meeting, so we'd have 3 full readings still in order to amend that if that's so. I guess the point is to be prepared and ready for any discussion about it. You okay, Ron? Need water? He gets, yeah, a lot of us do. All right, so that was just a reminder with respect to that legislation. Any other discussion at this point on that?
Council President Rupel, the last day this piece of legislation needs to get to the county is it August 1st or August 4th?
It may even be as late as August 10th this year. Relating, it's all has to do with when the date of the election is. I think the election might be November 8th this year. The first Tuesday is the 1st, so it moves to the second Tuesday, I believe, in that case. So I think Mr. Lala said at the last meeting, August 10th, Councilman Scholes. Yeah, it's 90 days prior, I believe, so.
All right, thank you. Ordinance number 22-0-34, an ordinance amending codified ordinance section 672.10 relating to fireworks and declaring an emergency.
I have a question. I know the law director isn't here, but would this piece of legislation also prohibit, if we opt out, prohibit anything at the farm parks? Or are they, because they're a separate type of political?
I don't think it changes anything for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Do they do fireworks at all there? I don't recall that they do fireworks.
Yeah, at
Do
Wine
do 'em
Fest they
a couple
do.
times a year? Okay.
And they used to have, what is it? One of the military bands comes out too. I can't remember which one. I'm sorry. Resolution number 22-R-35, a resolution adopting a tax budget for fiscal year 2023. And I believe Mr. Slepnicker said we should try to pass that preferably on the second reading. Moving on, council comments. Are there any council comments tonight? Don't see any. Continuing concerns, anyone, again, an opportunity from anyone in the public who wishes to come forward to address any continuing concerns, which I think we've done that already tonight. All right, the last thing I have on the agenda is adjournment. So seeking a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Smolik and second by Mr. Schultz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.